Dearly beloved, greetings and welcome to the third part of our intellectual and faith journey. In the last two parts, we talked about God, about creation, and about science and its relationship with the Bible. Today, we will be focused on the dwelling place of God. Before we continue, let us watch this video together. See you shortly.
God does not live in heaven. So I know you're going to ask me, where does he live? You're already asking. The Bible calls God the immortality that dwelleth on unapproachable light, which no man has seen nor will ever see. So if you say he lives in heaven, I have a question. But before I ask you my question, Genesis 1:1. Genesis 1:1. And I want everybody to read it, be like a mass choir. Everybody, Genesis 1:1. 1, 2, go. In the beginning, God created. Now hold on. If there was a day when God created the heaven and the earth, are you catching the flow? So the question, so if there was a day when God created heaven and earth, where was he before that day? Anywhere he was, that is where he is, because he said, I am the Lord. Since God doesn't live in heaven, then God did not create heaven for himself. Heaven is created for man. God.
This argument is logically correct, but theologically wrong because it fails to take into consideration the linguistic and cultural dimensions of the text, especially as it relates to God's dwelling place in the scriptures. Let us take note that the Old Testament book of Genesis was written in Hebrew before later translated into other languages like Greek, Latin, and English. In the English version of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, it reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Some translations say universe, whatever. The word heaven comes from the Hebrew word shamayim. It is from this word that we grasp the biblical meaning of heaven and its theological implications. Shamayim is a plural word that sometimes also functions as a singular. An example of its plural use is found in many places in the Bible, including Psalm 19 verse 1, which says, "The heavens proclaim the glory of God, and the firmament shows forth the work of his hands." We will see the singular examples in a few moments. So, to continue, we see that the word shamayim signifies two realms. The first realm is what we call the physical heavens. This includes the atmosphere and the celestial bodies like the clouds, the moon, the stars, and the planets. The second realm is the spiritual heaven, which is also known as the dwelling place of God. Therefore, the double nature of the word shamayim reflects an integrated worldview in ancient Jewish cosmology, which harmonizes the observable universe with the divine nature. So the flexibility of this word shamayim allows it to embody both the physical and the spiritual significances of heaven. We see that this viewpoint is supported in many places throughout the Hebrew scriptures. For example, Genesis chapter 1 verse 8 designates the firmament as heaven, reinforcing the idea of shamayim as a divine realm. Furthermore, Psalm 11 verse 4 says, "Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. And Isaiah 66 verse 1 says, "Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What house can you build for me? Where is the place of my rest?" All these texts emphasize God's residence in heaven, portraying it as a sacred space of divine authority distinct from the earthly realm. Consequently, we should not claim that we do not know where God lives. God lives in heaven, and that is why Jesus taught his disciples how to pray, saying, "Our Father who art in heaven." Matthew chapter 6 verse 9 to 13 and Luke chapter 11 verse 2 to 4. All these make it clear that God lives and dwells in heaven. Moreover, ancient Jewish cosmology depicts heaven as a multi-layered universe populated by angelic beings in God's presence, and consequently further affirming the notion of heaven as a divine abode. This celestial hierarchy illustrates heaven's integral role in the divine order and interactions. Therefore, if we fail to understand the very first sentence of the Bible, how do we expect to understand the subsequent text of that very book? Know that a misunderstanding at the beginning will lead to a bigger one at the end. Finally, what the word Shamayim teaches us is that, first, heaven is not merely a geographical location, but rather the essence of God's enduring presence and authority. Where God is, there heaven is. Second and lastly, the word Shamayim leads us into a deeper contemplation of the divine within the cosmos, making us know that both the physical and the spiritual realms form one single reality. God lives in heaven, and it's not a question for debate. Thank you for joining me in this third part. Share with your friends so that we continue to grow in our intellectual and faith journey. See you next time, and God bless you.